There's a lot to see around Oslo. Fortresses, Viking sites, islands, even a place where you can dig for your own emeralds. We'll show you 20 destinations, how to get to each one with or without a car, and what you'll actually find when you get there. Throughout this video we will mention bus and train lines. These are valid as of 2026. Check entur.no or Router's websites for current times. For opening hours and prices, check the attraction websites. Unless mentioned otherwise, you don't need to pre-book anything we show in this video. If you go by car, there's usually a parking lot nearby, unless we say otherwise. Now, if you're hoping to see the famous western fjords, Geirangerfjord, Nærøyfjord, those are 5 to 7 hours away. That's a different trip. But within a couple of hours of Oslo, there's plenty to see. Let's start in the southeast. Fredrikstad is the most popular day trip from Oslo. The main attraction is Gamlebyen, the old town, one of the best preserved fortress towns in northern Europe. The town was founded in 1567 after Sarpsborg burned down during the war with Sweden. The fortifications came later in the 17th century, built to a Dutch design with water-filled moats and earth ramparts. That's why it has this star shape when seen from above. The fortress was only attacked once, during the Swedish-Norwegian War of 1814, and it capitulated. So unlike Fredrikstad in Halden, it never saw serious military action. Today you'll find small shops in the old buildings, artisan workshops, cafes and restaurants along the cobbled streets. People actually live here, so it's not just a museum. The free city ferries travel between the old and new parts of town. It's a nice way to explore the city without walking too much. In the old town, you'll also find the Gamlebyen Model Railway Centre, one of Norway's few public model railway layouts. It's open at weekends and during Norwegian school holidays. You'll find more restaurants and shops on the other side of the river in the modern town. The train from Oslo takes about an hour and runs regularly. From the station, it's a short walk to the free ferry. Halden is a small town about 100 kilometers southeast of Oslo, just 3 kilometers from the Swedish border. The main attraction is Fredrikstad Fortress, which sits on a hill overlooking the town. The fortress was built in the 17th century to defend against the Swedes after Norway lost the old border fortress at Bohus. It was named after King Frederick III. The fortress saw major action during the Great Northern War. In 1718, Charles XII of Sweden laid siege with 40,000 men. The king died during the siege, hit in the head by a projectile while inspecting the trenches. It's still a mystery whether he was killed by Norwegian fire or assassinated by his own side. Either way, the Swedes withdrew and the war soon ended. Death spot of Charles XII, marked with a memorial stone. The fortress is free to visit year-round. You can walk up from the town center or drive to the entrance. There's a museum open during the summer. Just outside town is Rød Herregård, an 18th century manor house with an English-style park. The harbor front has a few restaurants and a pleasant promenade on the shore of the Idfjord. Trains run hourly from Oslo. The station is in the town center, so everything is within walking distance. Halden is less touristy than Fredrikstad, but offers just as much history. Kongsvinger is another fortress town. It's also near the Swedish border in the east. The star-shaped fortress was built in the 1680s and sits on a hill overlooking the Glomma River. The fortress was never successfully besieged or conquered, quite rare for Norwegian fortifications. Below the fortress is Øvrebyen, the old town. It became Norway's first conservation area in 1975. The wooden buildings date from the 1700s and 1800s, and the street grid was designed by Johan Caspar de Sigignon, the same engineer who planned Trondheim. Vinger Church has an unusual onion dome and has stood since 1697. The onion dome is unique for Norway. These are normally more common in Germany and Russia. In Kongsvinger, there is also the Norwegian Women Museum. The surrounding Finnskogen area tells the story of Finnish settlers who came here centuries ago. Take train line L14 from Oslo. Kistefos is located along the Ranselva River, about an hour north of Oslo. It used to be a pulp mill from 1889 to 1955. Now it's a modern art museum and sculpture park. The main attraction is the Twist, a twisted bridge designed by Bjørke Ingels Group. It spans the river and houses art exhibitions inside. It really is an unusual building. It's not a regular bridge with a fancy decoration. The whole structure twists by 90 degrees and required special construction techniques. The sculpture park has installations scattered throughout the forest. The old mill machinery has been preserved, so you can see how the industrial past looked. Even if you're not usually interested in modern art, this place is a must for you. Our producer, who normally stays away from modern art, says it's definitely a place to go. Children will also find it interesting. Don't underestimate how much time you need here. We spent over 4 hours, and we'd normally avoid art museums. Between the sculpture park, the Twist, the old factory and the riverside paths, there's a lot of ground to cover. The museum buildings and exhibitions are only open from May to October, but the sculpture park itself is always accessible, even outside the season. You can buy tickets from machines at the entrances. They accept cards and Vips. Note that the water sculptures will be turned off during winter. During this season, there's an express bus from Oslo bus terminal. You have to buy tickets on the Vy website in advance, as the bus won't run if no tickets are sold. There's also a shuttle to Hadeland Glassverk, one of Norway's best glass factories, in Jevnaker. Verdens Ende means world's end, and it really does feel like you've reached the edge of something. This is the southern tip of Tjøme Island, where the rocky shores meet the open Skagerrak. The place got its name in the early 1900s, when summer tourists started calling it that. The lighthouse from 1932 is probably the most photographed feature. The whole area is popular for sunset viewing. There are coastal paths along the shoreline and out to the islands in the sea. In summer, people swim and fish here. It's about 1.5 hours south of Oslo by car. By public transport, take the train or bus to Tønsberg, then local buses 2 and 22. This is one of the most popular day trip destinations from Oslo, so on sunny weekends the car park fills up fast. Come early or very late if you can. And bring a jacket, even in summer. It's always windy at the end of the world. You can easily combine Verdens Ende with a visit to Tønsberg, as you pass through it on the way. Tønsberg claims to be Norway's oldest town, founded around 871 AD. Whether that's exactly true is debated, but it definitely has Viking heritage. The castle ruins on Slottsfjellet gives you a panoramic view over the town and the Vestfold coastline. Not much of the castle remains, but the viewpoint is worth the climb. The historic wharf area along the harbor has wooden buildings with restaurants and galleries. The Haugar Art Museum is nearby. In the town center, you can see a couple of Viking ships. And there's an exhibition where a Viking ship is being constructed using traditional methods. It's quite interesting to watch. Unfortunately, the restaurants on the waterfront are expensive. Even more expensive than Oslo, which is saying something. Trains run hourly from Oslo. During rush hour, a few trains run directly with no stop from Oslo. One interesting thing about the train. It makes a complete loop around the city before continuing towards Larvik, then passes over the line towards Oslo. You'll notice it if you're paying attention. This is best seen from Slottsfjellet. Drammen used to be known as Norway's ugliest town. People used to say the best thing about Drammen is leaving Drammen. That's changed quite a bit. The city sits on both sides of the Drammen River. The most famous attraction is Spiralen, a corkscrew tunnel winds 1.7 kilometers uphill inside the mountain. You drive through 6 complete spirals before emerging at a viewpoint 180 meters up. This is probably the only road where you can feel carsick even when driving yourself. It was built because stones were needed for the new harbor, and they didn't want to just make a quarry, so they built that spiral tunnel. If you don't have a car, there are forest trails to the top. It's a popular recreational area. Bragernes Square is the main square with a town hall and various cafes. The Drammen Theatre is nearby on Øvre Storgata. The riverfront has walking paths connecting different parts of the city. Drammen used to be 2 towns until 1811, Bragernes and Strömstad. If you ask why, then that is because they belong to 2 different dioceses, the one of Oslo and the one of Tønsberg. The new station reopened in September 2025. Trains run 4 times per hour from Oslo, so it's very easy to get there. Hamar is on the shore of Lake Mjøsa, Norway's largest lake. Most people know it from the 1994 Winter Olympics. The Olympic Hall, shaped like an upturned Viking ship, is still there. The roof is one of the world's largest wooden structures of its kind. The main attraction is Domkirkeodden, where you'll find medieval cathedral ruins. A modern glass structure was built around the old stone ruins, which creates an interesting contrast between old and new. The Norwegian Railway Museum is also here. You can see historic locomotives, including the impressive Dovregubben. They host Norway, a large model railway show on the first weekend in November every year. During summer, you can take a boat trip on the Skibladner. This is the world's oldest paddle steamer still in regular service, and the only one of its kind in Norway. It connects Hamar with Lillehammer, Gjøvik and Eidsvoll. Trains run hourly from Oslo, and the station is in the center. Fetsund Lenser is one of Norway's most important industrial heritage sites. This is where they control the timber floating on the Glomma River. Millions of logs would float downstream to coastal mills, and these installations managed the whole operation. At peak, 1.5 million logs passed through here every year. The museum explains how log driving worked. It was dangerous, skilled work. The last timber floating in Norway only stopped in 2006. When we visited in early May, the Glomma was very low after a dry winter, so the floating cabin was not really floating anymore and could be accessed by walking on the dry riverbed. There's also a nature exhibition about the wildlife of the Glomma Delta and Lake Øyeren. Take the L14 train from Oslo and get off at Fetsund. From there it's a short walk. Trains run hourly. Lommedalsbanen is a narrow-gauge heritage railway run by volunteers. The site was built as a museum, with old mining and field rolling stock collected from around Norway. You board the train at Gundershogge station and ride along an 800-meter line. Right after the station, there's a steep incline of 4%, so the locomotive really struggles to pull the train. For context, this is really steep for a railroad. The railway operates during the summer weekends and special occasions like Christmas. To get there, take a train to Sandvika, then bus 210A to the final stop at Bykrysset. Follow the signs from there. Kongsberg history is all about silver. Mining started in 1624 and brought wealth to this town in the valley. Kongsberg Church has an impressive Baroque interior, showing just how much money the silver mines generated. The main site is at Sagrenda, where you can explore the actual silver mine. The silver mines were once so valuable that Kongsberg became Norway's second largest city in the 1770s, with 4,000 workers at its peak. Today you can visit the old tunnels 342 meters below the surface. Before you go in, you receive a helmet and a hearing protection. You'll need them. The mine train takes you 2.3 kilometers into the mountain, and it's loud. You sit in small mining carts. It's dim, and you cannot talk to the person next to you. No doom scrolling, no reading a book. You just sit there for 15 minutes, rattling into the darkness. Some people will find it claustrophobic, but that's what the miners experience every day. The temperature inside is around 6 to 10 degrees year-round. If you're visiting in summer wearing shorts and a t-shirt, you will freeze. Bring a jacket and long trousers. If you've heard of Kongsberg as a weapons manufacturer, then that's the same place. Kongsberg Våpenfabrik was founded in 1814 after the silver mines declined. Today, they make, for example, the NASAM air defense system. As such, there are also a lot of tech companies located in Kongsberg. Take the L12 train, which runs hourly. The city center is walking distance. To reach the mine at Sagrenda, take bus 409 from the station. The mine can only be visited during summer and Norwegian school holidays. Tours can be booked in advance. Blaafarveværket is Europe's only preserved cobalt mining and pigment production site. They produced the cobalt blue pigment used for everything from Chinese porcelain to European paintings. Cobalt was the only way to produce deep blue pigments which didn't fade before the chemical industry, and was as such extremely valuable. There are two areas to visit. Blaafarveværket is a processing site with 18th and 19th century buildings. There's also a farm where children can see animals. The mine itself, koboltgruvene, is deep in the forest at Skutterud. Guided tours take you underground with helmets and ponchos. The mineral containing cobalt is called skutteredite, after the places of the mine, as it was first found here. When cobalt prices surged a few years ago, they investigated whether the mine could be reopened. The ore quality would still be among the world's best. Best visited by car, this is limited public transport to Blaafarveværket and none to the mine. Near Eidsvoll along Lake Mjøsa, you can search for your own emeralds. For the price of admission, you keep any green stones you find. Mining stopped here at the end of the 19th century after only 10 years. More emeralds were found in Colombia at a lower cost. The biggest stone ever found here was donated to the mining museum in Kongsberg. After a short walk along the lake, you reach the mining area. In the cliffs, you'll see old mining shafts. Don't go inside, they are not secure. You can bring your own equipment or just look carefully. Emeralds are usually found in white stones. Best accessed by car. Open from mid-April to end of September. There's no cafe on site, so bring your own food and drink. The ferry crossing between Strömstad in Sweden and Sandefjord in Norway is an attraction in itself. The 2.5-hour journey takes you across the Skagerrak with views of islands on both sides. Strömstad is a Swedish coastal town. Norwegians go there for cheaper shopping. Sandefjord is on the Norwegian side and has a whaling museum and beaches. Many Norwegians have cabins there. Only one Color Line ship runs this route, twice a day, so plan carefully. There used to be more ships. Previously, Color Line had 2. Then, Fjord Line sued their way into the harbor, so there were 3 ships running that line. Then Color Line sold their old ship because 3 ships were too much, and then Fjord Line decided that it was not profitable and ceased operation. If you're using public transport, take a train to Halden and then a bus to Strömstad. take the ferry, then walk to Sandefjord station and train back to Oslo. There are direct buses from Oslo to Strömstad, but they don't run frequently. By car, you can combine the trip with Fredrikstad or Halden on the way. And if you wonder why the boat tickets are so cheap, most Norwegians use that boat because of the tax-free shopping. There are also shows and a mini casino. It's like a 2.5-hour mini cruise. Drøbak is a village at the narrowest point of the Oslofjord. White wooden houses, pleasant atmosphere, close to Oslo so it attracts visitors year-round. Julehuset sells Christmas decorations year-round. Norwegian children are told that Santa Claus lives in Drøbak. This tradition started in 1989 when the municipal council officially declared Santa was born in Drøbak. The post office opened in 1990. The narrow streets and harbor views give it a traditional coastal town feel. There are small shops along the main street and various restaurants. The Drøbak Aquarium showcases marine life from the Oslofjord. It's not very big. The fish in the main tank are fed once a day. In summer, you can take the ferry from Aker Brygge in Oslo all the way to Drøbak. It's a lovely boat trip along the fjord. Outside of summer, the ferry doesn't run. There is always bus 500 from Oslo bus terminal that takes about 50 minutes. Oscarsborg Fortress sits on the islands in the Oslofjord. This place is famous for one event. On 9th of April 1940, the fortress sank the German cruiser Blücher, delaying the invasion of Oslo by crucial hours. This gave the Norwegian government and royal family time to escape. 2 films have been made about this event, Kongens Nei and Blücher. Both were filmed here at Oscarsborg. The southern island has the main fortress with old military installations. It was in active use until 2002. The northern island is mostly forest, but the torpedo battery that sank the Blücher is located here. Torpedoes were 40 years old, Austrian-made, never used in combat before. Commander Birger Eriksen said the famous quote, "Either I will be decorated or court-martialed. Fire!" He was both at the end. The wreck of the Blücher lies about 1,600 meters north of the island at a depth of 90 meters. That's well beyond recreational diving limits of 40 meters. After artifacts were stolen, a special permit is required to dive there, besides special training and equipment. To reach Oscarsborg year-round, take the ferry from Drøbak. It's operated by Forsvarsbygg, the Defense Department, so it's not included in the Ruter tickets. Buy a separate ticket from the machine at the dock or online. During summer, the boats from Oslo to Drøbak also stop there. The pier for these boats is on the other side of the island. The ferry usually departs from Sundbrygga, about 2 kilometers north of the town center. During summer, it also stops near the aquarium. It runs about once per hour. There's also a hotel on the island if you want to stay somewhere unusual. In Eidsvoll, Norway's constitution was written in 1814. The neoclassical manor house was built in the 1760s. Inside you can see the rooms where 112 representatives gathered to write the constitution. The building was completely restored for the 2014 bicentennial. The constitution was written in 6 weeks, which is very fast if you see how long decisions usually take in this country today. It's the second oldest still in use after USA. Guided tours are the only way to see inside. Most tours are in Norwegian, but there's one English tour each day. Next to the building is an exhibition on democracy. We found the guided tour genuinely excellent. The guide we had knew everything about the constitutional history. If you're interested in Norwegian history, or you're bringing guests who want to understand how Norway became independent, this is a solid day trip. To get there, take a train to Eidsvollverk, then bus 430 towards Eidsvoll. Eidsvoll town itself is not particularly special, and not really worth a detour, as we found out. Horten's main attraction is the Royal Norwegian Navy Museum at the former naval base Karl Johansvern. The museum has a large exhibition on naval history. You can go aboard several warships, including a submarine. On weekends, veterans may explain what serving on these ships was like. Not all ships are open every day, so check the museum website. The Preuss Museum has one of the world's most comprehensive photography collections. Preuss used to be the company that developed photos for all of Norway and a common name in households in Norway until the early 2000s. The town center is typical for a small Norwegian town. A few cafes and restaurants along the waterfront. Horten connects to Moss by ferry, one of the busiest ferry routes in Norway. To get there, take a train to Skoppum, then a bus. Or take a train to Moss, then the ferry. Lillehammer hosted the 1994 Winter Olympics. The Olympic Park with ski jumps is still a major attraction. The Olympic Museum celebrates winter sports history. As the Olympics were much smaller back then, most of the sites like Hafjell and Knitfjell are close by. Norwegians still consider it the best Olympics of all time. Maihaugen Open Air Museum is one of Norway's finest. Over 200 historic buildings from the Gudbrandsdal Valley. You can spend half a day there easily. Hunderfossen Family Park has attractions based on Norwegian folklore. Some of the Netflix film Troll was set there. The pedestrianized main street Storgata has traditional wooden buildings with cafes and shops. Lillehammer was also the main setting for the TV series Lillehammer from 2012 to 2014. If you're coming because of it, don't expect the town to celebrate it. That was over a decade ago and locals have moved on. There are no filming location tours or signs pointing to where Frank Tagliano had his club. If you want to find those spots, you'll have to do your own research before you arrive. Lillehammer cares about the 1994 Winter Olympics, which were far more important for the town and the country. Trains run hourly from Oslo. It's quite far, so you might want to stay overnight. The drive to Lillehammer is mostly motorway, so don't expect dramatic scenery along the way. You're going for the destination, not the journey. If you want a more interesting route, you can drive via Gjøvik and take the smaller roads along Lake Mjøsa, but it takes longer. Bergvang is a farm in Asker where families can interact with animals. Horses, sheep, cows, llamas, alpacas, birds and dogs. There are scheduled feeding sessions for huskies, pigs and alpacas throughout the day. Children can enjoy pony rides on Icelandic horses. The farm is near a landscape conservation area at Semsevannet Lake, so there are walking trails through forests and along waterways. It's open at weekends throughout the year. Take the train to Asker, which runs every 10 minutes, then bus 275 to Vøyen. The farm is a short walk from there. That's our 20-day trips from Oslo. If you want outdoor activities closer to the city, we have hiking videos from Oslo, like the one through Østmarka National Park, which you can reach by metro.